welcome to the second episode of Azure Machine Learning. In this episode, we are going to see that how Azure ML, automated ML works. So as you know that we have a machine learning process. So machine learning process start with getting the data from different resources. This can be SQL, DB, Cosmos DB, data warehouse, and other parts. It also can be, after that we need to prepare the data. So if you have different type of preparing the data, the first phase is about to create some good quality of the data that we can apply machine learning, and then for each algorithm that we're using, we need some prerequisite data transformation, and after that we apply some machine learning model to create the model, build and train it, and then after evaluation we may use it, or we see the evaluation is not enough and we need to repeat this process. So this is a machine learning process. So one of the problem that we have in this area is about which algorithm we need to use, how to set up the algorithm, how to prepare the data. So there are lots of things that if we want to apply machine learning, we need to learn a lot about them. So there is some way that actually help us to kind of make this process a bit easier for us. Before I'm going to explain that, let me provide an example of that we are going to predict the price of a car. So imagine that we have a car and we want to see that how much this car worth. So definitely if we want to predict the price, we need some attribute to predict that. So we have some features, we need some algorithm, and each algorithm has its own parameter. So if you want to do this process manually, what is happening is actually we first select some of the features, and then based on that features, also based on the nature of the data and the nature of the question that we have, we choose some of the algorithm, and then for each algorithm we need to find the proper parameter that's kind of make the algorithm works better. So for example, in this example we have about 30% accuracy for that one. In a second one we're going to the another feature, so we are going to check the other features, apply other algorithms and with different parameters to come up with a good algorithm that satisfy this process. We need to apply this process many times to come up with a best evaluation. So if you want to do this process by ourselves, writing codes or using manual approach, it takes lots of time. So automated ML, this place help us. It's going to actually automate all of this process, from selection of the algorithm, from applying different parameters manually for us. So this is how it works. So it's actually going to find the best kind of accuracy for us, and you can then use this algorithm and the model that has been created in your application. So let's have a look on the Azure ML website. So just going to bring it here. So if you remember from the previous episode, we go through the Azure ML portal and we see some of the very overview of the feature. In this today I'm going to show you automated ML. So actually under the author, under the the second option is automated ML. So under the automated ML is actually we can go and create a new one. So the first step is to select the data set. So you can create a data set. So later on I will explain about how to get data from data store. Also you can get data from web or from some open data source. We will talk about them soon. So in this example you can get your data from your local machine or from the web file. I'm going to get the data from the local machine. So I put the data as just a famous data set that we have, a Titanic one, and I said that's a kind of a data set, Titanic data set. And if I have some description I can put over here, going to the next step. So here you can actually upload the file over here. So I'll just search for the dataset, Titanic. So Titanic dataset. Yep. So this is my data set, and I can apply data validation. So it's going to check the data for the creative preview and schema, or you can set I don't want to do that, but I prefer to actually apply that process. And then it's take a bit time, as you can see over here. It's going to parsing our data sets. Doesn't take that much, so I think it's good to have it. And then so it's create a schema of our data set, as you can see over here, and you can see your data set. If you want, you can skip the rows, or if the data has so you can just see very simple specification over here. So here is step that you specify which column you want to include, which one not. So I'm just include some of the important things like tickets, fare, and cabin, and embark. So I just want to include people are survive or not, and also based on the variable like passenger class, gender, and age. So I'm going to the next step and then create a data set. In the section, in the episode that I'm going to talk about how to bring data into Azure ML, I'm deeply going to see the different ways of getting the data through that. So this episode, we're just going to see that how our automated ML works in a simple way. So after that, now we select a data set. We need to actually choose the data set that we have here. So I just choose the Titanic one, and going ahead. In a second step, we are going to actually now we are going to the machine learning phase. So here we are going to use the existing experiments or a new one. So I just call new Titanic model, and the target column is survive, people survive. You need to define a compute cluster that if you have, and if you don't have, you need to create a new one. So I'm just going to the next. So just Titanic model data. Oh, selecting the new one, sorry, Titanic model data. And then so here, if you don't have a, you can specify that which type of compute you are going to use. So for the compute cluster, I'm going to use it for now. So I'm just going to create a compute cluster for now. So here, compute cluster is a virtual machine that the model that is going to train is going through that. I'm not going to use the low priority because this is the only machine learning model that I have. I'm not going to use the GPU because it's not a organizational or very broad or in a huge amount of data. It's a very small data, so I prefer the CPU one. Again, we go through this very deeply in the section that we talk about that. And so here I can use any of them, so that's no matter. So if you don't like the things, you can set I want to select from all of the options that I have over here. So you can choose the one that you want. You see there are different virtual machines with a different things over here. So it's up to you guys that how you actually want to choose them. So I'm going to use the recommended one. So here I'm just use this one, and then going just make sure the location, I recommend that make sure the location is the one that actually you use for your Azure ML. So that's a kind of the good things you need to consider. The compute is compute cluster, and you can specify the number of the nodes, the minimum and the maximum one. So it's up to you guys. It's about how parallel actually the is can going on. Again, we'll talk about it very soon. So I'm just going to do that. So I'm just going to create the compute cluster. So here we use the cluster that has been the actual compute cluster that has been created. So now we actually in a phase that we are going to choose the which algorithm. So in this example, I'm going to choose the classification. So we have three options. Classification, that is about predict target column. It can be yes or no or blue or green. So you see that is not really complicated things. You can use the deep learning approach. So using the deep learning approach is actually, as it says, is provide higher accuracy, but of course because of the nature of the algorithm of the deep learning is take lots of time to run. So for this example we use that one. As you see, regression is when we have numeric to predict, and that's for the based on the time. So you also able to set up the additional setting. We'll talk about it when I'm going to talk about classification algorithms, or what a primary metric. So primary metric is the measure that algorithm, the process of the machine learning is going to compare each algorithm, each output of algorithm with the other. So that's really important. We'll talk about all of them in the classification one, so I just leave it that. We want to explain the base model. Here you're able, so these are the list of the algorithm that had been set here to use for automated ML. If I just focus, you can see there are, I think there are 11 algorithm over here, but you have choose, you can choose which one to include, which one not. So here you can list the algorithm that you don't want to use during training. So I can set very fast to eliminate some of them, decision tree, random forest. So I'm just remove some of them and just put two of them over here. In the best practice is to consider most of them, because as much as algorithm you have is actually going get better accuracy, but of course that's the timing that is run the virtual machine is the cost that we need to pay. So here you can specify the positive class, what is the label should be. You able to provide some criteria to finish the process based on the number of the hours. So I just limited to 1 hour, and also the metrics thresholds about the metrics that actually we use it, how it's achieved that one, and the iteration concurrency. We'll talk about them very deeply in the section that we're going to check the algorithm enhancement. So I'm just save that process. You can see the featureization, so it's some recommendation on which feature to choose or not if you didn't select before. I already selected, so here is the same, but that's process also available. So here you can choose the validation and test type based on that. I just put it for now auto, and if you have a specific test data set you can use it. I just leave it for now because we are going just to see that how it works, and then in the advanced episode about this we are going to look at the how we can make it much more accurate. So the process may take, as you see we put 1 hour threshold, so it's definitely may take to 1 hour, so or maybe sooner, but it's actually you can see the process over here. So you can actually most of the things start over here. You can check the process about output over here, but all of the status about when is it start, actually what is the compute, and some other information you will see here. So you need to wait couple of minutes so the process should start. As you can see here under the output, you can see the different steps that happening over here. from cross-validation, analyzing missing value, missing features, value imputation, and also some kind of explanation that how is actually work through that. Also some of the setup that has been over here, you can see more deeply over here. And so these are actually the process that happen behind the scene. You can see the child line that now is running. These are the different run happening. So some of them already finished, some of them is on the way. So that's a difference. So and also you can see the model training phase has been started, and that's kind of take a bit time to kind of check that one. So we need to wait to see that how it actually works. So after it's finished, you're able to see the base model summary over here, and we can go through that and see that how it actually work. Okay, so it's already finished. So it's actually provide some detail about that. The score doesn't improve over last 3 iteration. Actually because of that. So that's kind of the thing. So let's see what we get. So if I go just close that one and go to the models, we should see some of the models has been created, and you can see because we choose the metrics of under the curve to be selected as a metrics to measure how the algorithm works. You can see that how it's sorted. So it's actually many algorithms with this has been selected. So it's start from 52, and the best one is actually is 85. So here so it's actually algorithm has been selected, and now we can actually use the best algorithm, that is this one, to deploy it and use it as a web service. Also you can see some things like the explanation if you enable it, the data transformation if already enabled, so you can actually see that one. So these are the for example, for this scenario we have data sources, that was 3 columns, numeric, we have category. Also what's the process of the data transformation has been here. Also of course you can see the output of your one. There are many things about the environment that he has run, the package, the model, and everything actually available over here. Also you can see the child run of the each of those over there. So that's the thing. You can see the other accuracy things, metrics like accuracy under the curve, macro, micro, and weighted average, precision, score for the macro and micro. You can see them. I will go when I go into the evaluation check for the algorithm. I will explain all of them, that what they mean. Also you can use the feature to explain the model. That's also possible. Also you can test the model. For example, you can say I want to test the data set. So that's you select a specific data set, and you're actually able to apply the training over here. So that's all of the things happen here. We will go through all of them very soon. If you want to see the other metrics, they are already described here. So the next step is to kind of deploy the model. So this is the best model that we have. Now we're able to actually deploy it. We can deploy it as a web service, or we can deploy it as a real time. So that's actually as a web service, so you can actually use it in the other applications, or you can as a real time, that is a kind of the one applied there. So I'm just going to deploy it. You can put a name, Titanic model. For the deployment, we have 2 types of the compute type, AKS or ACI, or Azure Container Instance, Azure Kubernetes Service. For this example, because we are just going to deploy it as a very small scale, we are not going to deploy it in an organization or for the IoT Edge or DevOps, so I just use the ACI. Again, what is that and how we can use it will be explained very soon. You can enable the application inside and other things, so I just keep it like that, and it's going to take a bit time to deploy, so we're just waiting till the deployment actually start. So the actual deployment starts. After the deployment finish, under the endpoint we should see the detail of the web service that we have over here. So in the next video, I'm going a bit more detail about the deployment and how we can run it inside Azure ML notebook. So we go through there, have a look how we can actually use the Azure ML notebook to do the same process or consume the data, and then we go through the same process in Azure ML Studio or Azure ML Designer actually. And after that, again, we go to a bit more deep through the data set about the virtual machines that we have, about the classification metrics that we have. So we go a bit deep in actually through what is happening. Thanks so much for watching this video.